Good evening and happy Juneteenth. I'm Michael Steele in for Joy Reid. So we begin tonight with an earnest question. What on earth is wrong with the Republican Party? The sad state of what was once the grand old party was on full display yesterday when the convicted felon / Republican presidential nominee, Donald Trump, held a particularly unhinged rally where he spent 90 minutes, folks, spewing a combination of lies, vitriol, and rambling word salad.
Joe Biden's granting mass thinking. He's going to formally grant a mass amnesty to millions of illegal aliens. Less than 4 years ago, our border was secure. Inflation was nowhere to be seen. The world was at peace. In 2016, we won. And then we did much better here in 2020. But lots of things happened. And then in the end, we won. But by that time, it was a little late. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor. Remember, I got indicted more than Alphonse Capone. Al Capone. What's better, this or sitting on the Pacific or the Atlantic, which has sharks? You don't have sharks. See, that's a big advantage.
Okay, so let's just be clear, and then we want to clear up a few things in the process. 4 years ago, the world was not at peace. Trump did not win the state of Wisconsin or the election in 2020, and he has not been indicted more times than Al Capone. But perhaps even more embarrassing than Trump's deranged rant is his MAGA cronies' pathetic attempts to defend him, creating alternate realities where Trump is actually George Washington and Joe Biden is the convicted felon. No, really. Their words, not mine.
I believe today it's a 1776 moment in 2024, and Donald Trump is the George Washington of our moment. That is what I believe.
The next time you hear the word felon in this election, I think the felon in this election is Joe Biden. What he's doing to the country is criminal.
Now, it's also notable to take note of the fact that this rally took place in Wisconsin, just 30 miles outside of Milwaukee. You know, the city Trump called horrible last week. Well, that also happens to be the location of next month's Republican National Convention. Trump made somewhat of an attempt to sort of clean up the mess he made on aisle 9 by claiming he really loves Milwaukee, even as new reporting shows he wasn't even planning on staying there during the convention in the first place. Trump was reportedly planning on staying 90 miles away in, Chicago. That is, until reporters actually pressed him on it. In an interview with a local news station, Trump claimed he was, quote, always planning on staying in Milwaukee. But Chicago law enforcement confirmed to NBC News that Secret Service and local officials were, in fact, acting on plans for Trump to stay at his Chicago hotel as recently as Monday. Now, folks, having worked on conventions in the past, I can tell you straight up, it is a difficult process, and though location matters, it is about where you want to make a statement to the people that you're there for them. And that's probably why Republicans chose Milwaukee in Wisconsin, right? Because they want to win Wisconsin, right? But the statement Trump is sending to the people of Wisconsin is very loud and clear. He'd rather be in Chicago. Joining me now is Rick Tyler, MSNBC News, MSNBC political analyst and Republican strategist, and Maria Teresa Kumar, President and CEO of Voto Latino and an MSNBC contributor. Welcome to you both. It's good to be back at the table with you again. So Rick, we were kind of talking off camera about the fumes, the things that make you go a little nutty in the night. I want to play for you J.D. Vance, who was on Fox News talking about how wrong he was. Let's take a listen.
You've said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible. Those are things that the left is going to come after you, and they're probably going to be put in ads. should you be chosen as the VP pick. How do you deal with them now?
Yeah, well, I think the simple answer is you've got to respect the American people enough to just level with them. Look, I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president, and it's one of the reasons why I'm working so hard to make sure he gets a second term.
So clearly he's checked the idiot box. What say you, sir?
Lead poisoning. We have a problem with lead poisoning in Ohio. It's rampant throughout the country. We need to get ahead of it. I don't have any other way to explain it. I wish I did. He clearly has drank the Kool-Aid. He's all on board. But, you know, look, one thing I've learned, I think you've probably taken the same lesson in the last 30 years, is leadership is rare.
Yeah.
It really is rare.
Yeah.
And we call these people on Capitol
It's
Hill.
rare and it requires a lot.
It requires determination, courage, and taking the country where it seemingly doesn't want to go. But it also requires a vision of where you want to take the country. And Trump doesn't have that vision. And very few people have. In fact, I tell people all the time, I am so tired of talking about Ronald Reagan because I love Ronald Reagan. Right. But could we have someone else, like another leader? Is there somebody
I think everybody would welcome that.
We could talk about?
I would love to do that.
and it's not, and so we all call these people across the street here leaders. They're not leaders. Yeah. They're followers. Yeah. They will follow their constituents, but their constituents actually need a leader. And that is the answer to Donald Trump and the current conundrum of the Republican Party. There will emerge a leader. Because the things that Trump scares people about are actually real issues.
Mm-hmm. No, every single list that he ticked off.
Of course.
Right. He actually, that is his character.
And both sides will deal with those issues. But the question is, do you want to frighten people on immigration, on the economy, on all these things? Or do you want to provide answers and solutions of a positive future? The future is always frightening. Right? People are frightened by the future. They're frightened currently by AI. You know, I'm reading all about AI is going to take over all these things. But in all of these disruptive technologies and the way the economy moves, and with immigration, is the economy has always gotten better. The country's always gotten richer. Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan had the big argument about Jimmy Carter once gave a speech. It was called a malaise speech, and the press called it that. He didn't mention malaise in the speech. But he's basically saying to the American people, we have to accept a lower standard of living. And Reagan says no. And now when we think back to 1976, you remember 76,
that? I do.
And to today, who was right? Reagan was clearly right. We are more prosperous, more free, more than we could ever imagine. And the next generation wants that, but it requires a leader to articulate that.
It requires a leader that is explaining the changing dynamics of the country. And we don't have that in Donald Trump. If you actually look at one of the reasons why I think Vance is doing that, J.D. Vance is doing this, and why Nikki Haley caved, is because they have realized that the Republican Party is the Trump party. But there's also an opportunity for so many of the folks that are exiting Congress as we speak to say, you know what, I'm not Democratic, I'm not a Republican, but I am an independent. How more powerful would it be for them, instead of retiring, than to put on and switching their caps and saying we have an independent party? Because at the end of the day, we have the number one party in the country are independents that lean Democratic or lean independent. Lean Republican. So now is the time. But instead, they are cowering to someone who it promises to bring us back to the dark ages, and he says it out loud every single day.
But you both raise a very important and I think a central piece here, and it is leadership. And where you've had in the past Republicans like Reagan and Bush lead on an issue like immigration, which was difficult for them to do given the context of what was happening in the country and in the Congress, yet and still they were able to sort of put something out there. You have the Biden administration now a little bit stuck on that issue, but having now cleaved off some space for a different conversation, particularly after Republicans failed yet again to lead on it when they had the bill. How do Democrats take exactly what Rick is talking about in terms of that leadership, that important characteristic, and have that, to use the term Trump, the age question and the other issues that people are raising about Joe Biden?
So technically, I mean, you can sit back and say both of them are old, right? But the difference between, I would say, Biden and Donald Trump is that this is where experience of how to govern matters.